While the Public Investment and Accounts Committee of the Senate says more than 80% of current and former governors are likely to end up in jail, the Office of the Ombudsman says that governors facing corruption charges are not off the hook yet. It played a pivotal role in the removal from office of Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Ndungu Babayao Waititu. But how will this restore confidence across the 47 devolved units across the 47 counties? Our reporter Abdikadir Hashim has that update. Barely 24 hours after the former president of the Republic of Kenya, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, was laid to rest at his Kabrak home in Nakuru County, the country is back to the BBI mode, with the steering committee sitting with stakeholders for their views. As the handshake continues to provoke passion across the country, can the Odinga-Kenyatta bromance free Kenya from protracted political crisis and shackles of electoral violence after every election year in the country? Diana Rachel Mbugua has that update here on the program. On News Compass tonight, our focus is on what happened at the Kabrak home of Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi in Nakuru County, with the family passing on the political baton to Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, which also saw the springing up of the hustlers and the dynasties narrative. As the clouds gather for 2022 elections amid talk of a referendum in the country, how responsible and firm will Gideon Moi be with the Fimbo Yanyayo? The date is 13 February 2020. This is the Primetime News. I am Ayub Abdikadir Abdi. Our sign anchor tonight is Joyce Wairimo. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Thank you for joining us on the Primetime News. The short SMS code is 40920 and the hashtag on Twitter is News Compass. Later we'll sample some of your feedback. We start with the courts, and Joseph Irungu, also known as Joey, has finally been released on bail after the prosecution failed to produce compelling reasons and evidence to detain the accused in custody for the past 20 years been in custody. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, welcomed the ruling by Justice James Wakiaga and, however, called for the court to tighten bail terms across the country against the accused so as to avoid interference in the case. Our reporter Jeff Chaimba has that update from the courts of law.
After spending about a year in remand, Joseph Irungu, also known as Joe, finally had a reason to smile after he was freed on bond terms. Justice James Wakiaga in his ruling cited several cases where the accused persons into the murder cases have been released on bail.
Accused person cannot be kept in detention pending or during trial as a form of anticipatory punishment. I've looked at some cases in the recent past where accused persons charged with murder and which have attracted media attention have been released on bond as follows. Republic vs. Zachary Okotho Bado, he was released on a cash bail of 5 million. The case of Republic vs. Sarah Wairimu Kamotho,
Joseph Irungu and his co-accused TV journalist Jackie Maribe, alleged to be his lover, were arrested a year ago over the allegations into the murder of the business lady Monica Kimani at her Lamuria Gardens in Nairobi. However, after the arrest, the court freed Maribe on bail, excluding Joseph Irungu with claims he was at flight risk. But after appealing the decision, Justice James Wakiaga ruled the prosecution had no sufficient evidence to detain the accused person.
I am therefore satisfied that the following bond terms will be reasonable to secure his attendance at the trial. A bond of Kenya shillings 3 million with 2 sureties of similar amount, or in the alternative, cash bail of Kenya shillings 2 million with 3 sureties of similar amount. He shall not make any contact with any prosecution witnesses, including those who have testified against him. The accused shall not comment or discuss or post anything on this case, including the testimony of the witnesses. Upon his release, the same shall report to the area chief of the place where his parents reside immediately, and shall be reporting to the same every Thursday, every last Thursday of the month.
During a high-level dialogue over the bond and the bail launch report in Nairobi, Chief Justice David Maraga reiterated it is the right for any accused person to be released on bail, sentiments echoed by the Director of the Public Prosecution, DPP Nurdin Haji.
On bail and the bond matters, for instance, the Constitution gives an arrested person the right to be released on bond or bail on reasonable conditions pending a charge or a trial unless there are compelling reasons not to be released.
And I have also said that these have been anomalies. Some individuals granting bail terms which have eroded the public's trust in the criminal justice system.
However, the DPP Nudin Haji, who despite agreeing with the court ruling, urged the court to tighten the noose over the bail and the bond terms in order to avoid the interference of the cases.
Giving bail and bond, as we've said, it's a constitutional right unless there's compelling reasons. And I guess after reviewing, the magistrate or the judge must have seen that it was more compelling to allow him to pay the bond, and I think it is still hefty for that individual. 3 million shillings is not a joke to raise.
Joseph Virungu has been in remand since September 2018 and had filed a bail application in November 2019, claiming he was suffering at the committee maximum prison. He pleaded with the court to consider the time he has already been in custody and free him. Reporting for Ebro TV, I'm Jeff Khaemba.
Thank you, Jeff. Now, former Sports Cabinet Secretary Rashid Echesa has been arrested by detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations over a suspected arms deal in the country. Echesa, who was nabbed around the Milimani area and his cars impounded, is wanted for engaging in the purchase of firearms and ammunition together with a Turkish citizen without proper documentation. The former minister was taken to the DCI headquarters along Kiambu Road in Nairobi for questioning, even though it remains unclear whether any charges will be preferred against him. Echesa was fired in March 2019 by President Uhuru Kenyatta from the sports docket, replacing him with the current CS Ambassador Amina Mohamed, who served as the Minister for Education at the time. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matangi has ordered for the deportation of 4 Chinese nationals involved in the caning of a Kenyan at a restaurant in Kileleshwa, Nairobi County. The 4 were arrested by the DCI detectives following viral video that went on social media after showing a Kenyan employee being whipped for arriving late to work. Matangi's orders on Thursday came hours after the court directed the 4 be detained for 15 days pending a police investigation. China's ambassador to Kenya, Wu Peng, condemned the actions by the suspects, saying all their citizens must abide the Kenyan law. Last year, Matangi also ordered for the deportation of Chinese national Lu Qiang following his arrest for referring to President Uhuru Kenyatta and Kenyans as monkeys. Now, county governors, on the radar of investigative agencies are not off the hook yet, as the Office of the Ombudsman, which played a pivotal role in the ouster of former Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waititu, has vowed to investigate other county heads across the country who could be mismanaging public finances, as our reporter Abdikadir Hashim reports in the following story.
The move by the Ombudsman could spell doom for other governors who are walking on a tightrope, faced with accusation of dipping their fingers into the cookie jar. Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Aden Duale, has urged the Ombudsman to investigate public officers who are gobbling up taxpayers' monies.
This commission under you, Honorable Kajuju, also will be remembered, is the only commission that an investigation that you have done and a report that you have implemented was used by the Senate to impeach a governor.
Take this commission to the counties. I want to decentralize the services of this commission.
Duale says that counties have become a den of corruption and the commission needs to investigate so that the state county heads can befall the same fate as Waititu.
One of your functions is to investigate any conduct of a state officer, act or omission in public administration. I can tell you there are many Kenyans who suffer in the hands of civil servants. Kenyans are suffering. A good example is even the pending bills. I mean, there are people who their houses are being auctioned. There are families who are doing very well. Now they have no life.
The chair of the commission, Florence Kajuju, has said that they will start their investigations into the county governments who have outstanding pending bills.
and, publish names of state officials who abuse their power on the citizens. Kajuju, please, pending bills, the state officers who are disobeying the president's order, they must be held accountable.
The leaders were speaking at the launch of the strategic plan for the Office of the Ombudsman 2019 to 2023.
A big round of applause and a gold stand, ladies and gentlemen.
Abdikadir Hashim, Ibru TV.
Thank you, Abdi. Now, just under 24 hours after the late former President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi was buried at his Kabrak home, Nakuru County, the country is back to the BBI mode, with stakeholders in the process already hitting the ground running. The members of the steering committee began a validation meeting today with different stakeholders from across the country who gave their recommendations on the current BBI report, as our reporter Diana Rachel Mbugwa tells us more.
The BBI report proposes that the ethics mandate from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission be hived off and moved to the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC. The report also proposes the renaming of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, to the Ethics Commission that will oversee the promotion of ethics in the Kenyan nation. However, that proposal seems not to sit well with the NCIC. The Commission feels that the implementation of the proposal will whittle down the intentions and aspirations of the drafters of the NCI Act. They further argue that placing the Commission under the Office of the President, as recommended by the BBI report, will take away its independence, hence losing trust and credibility.
NCIC to be the one to prosecute, we would have many that could have been convicted, because our role ends at the investigations, and they are done, evidence is collected, but once we hand it over, we have no say after that.
In the same breath, stakeholders from the private sector noted that BBI report has failed to elaborate on how the public will participate in the war against corruption. They have called for the ethics mandate to be hived off from EACC, recommending full-time commissioners who deal with ethics.
Because we feel it will strengthen, and then it will show the public and everybody else that the NCIC has indeed teeth, because that's what the public wants to see. We are responding to what the public have very often told us, that we need to be strengthened and have the teeth.
Now, some of the other issues that the private sector has presented before the BBI Task Force Steering Committee is that the judiciary should hasten the cases facing high-profile individuals relating with corruption to a maximum of 6 months. In addition to the changes of national ethos, they have recommended that betting and gambling be banned entirely in the country. Senator Gertrude Inami, representing persons living with disabilities, also noted with concern the lack of accommodating persons living with disabilities in the forum, as the forum started without a sign language interpreter.
Only if it can truly be inclusive and ensure that they're not being left behind in any way, because in many times their issues have been ignored. But the BBI says very well that they're going to take care of the needs of persons with disabilities.
The validation meeting with different stakeholders has also seen women addressing issues that deal with gender, including the 2/3 gender rule, as well as ending female genital mutilation. Diana Rachel Mbugwa, Ibru TV.
We will discuss and take stock of what happened yesterday or transpired at the Kabrak home of the late President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, with the hustlers and the dynasty's narrative springing up. Equally, the passing of the political baton to Gideon Moi, and of course the talk of the BBI and whether it can be the easy, immediate fix to the country's political problems as we head into the crunch times of the politics in the country. The Nairobi Women's Hospital continues to salvage its dented reputation following the recent claims of inflation of medical bills to generate revenue. The hospital is now sending text messages to different Kenyans in a bid to restore its trust of clients across the country. The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers also came out to defend their members working at the health facility over claims of incompetency, as our reporter Milia Kisienya lays out in the following report.
5 days after the Nairobi Women's Hospital CEO Felix Wanjala stepped aside to allow investigations into the claims of fraud at the hospital, Nairobi Hospital continues to fight back and gain back trust lost from its clients. The bad press has seen the hospital step up to its effort of reaching out to its client in a move aimed at image restoration after the crisis that hit the hospital over claims of inflating medical bills. Meanwhile, as Nairobi Women Hospital fights to redeem its reputation, Kenya Union of Clinical Officers Nairobi branch, who have distanced itself from allegations that clinical officers were part of the alleged scam. Through their chairperson, Peter Washira, the association said there was no evidence linking them to the said allegations.
We will not protect any clinic officer who is found to have done unethical practices. So we were with the council, by the way, we have not received any formal complaint. And I want to ask the public, if there is anybody out there with a complaint, please take it to the clinic officers' council so that it can be processed. That clinic officer can be disciplined.
Anyone coming up with a damning information, which actually, to me, I can classify them to be political, to call a clinical officer who is qualified as unqualified, without any substantiated information, is purely uncalled for. Anyone saying that have actually been maybe admitted and procedurally by the said unqualified clinical officer, let them come out and mention. If there is any, we need to know, because there was no one which was mentioned.
Koko now wants its executive council to look into the claims that have placed the members of its union at a risk of losing trust from the common mwananchi. The allegations emerge after a screenshot of conversations claimed to be from a WhatsApp group of Nairobi Women's Hospital staffers were exposed online. The messages showed discussions where medical officers are supposedly being given instructions on how to maximum revenue by inflating medical bills. With 9 branches across the country and close to 2 decades of practice, Nairobi Women's Hospital has established itself as one of the most sought-after facilities up until complaints of unprocedural charges and admission surfaced. Professional bodies are, however, undertaking necessary investigations into the matter as the hospital keeps distancing itself innocent from the claims. The clarification by the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers comes in the wake of a feud between health insurers and the Nairobi Women Hospital over inflated medical bills. However, so far 7 insurers have suspended their services at the said hospital. Milia Kisenya for Ebru TV.
Thank you, Milia. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi and the leader of the majority party and Garissa Township MP Adam Duale have maintained that Cabinet Secretary George Magoha has no powers to interfere with appointments already done by the Public Service Commission in regards to the saga witnessed at the University of Nairobi. Duale also faulted the Teacher Service Commission TSC for pulling out teachers from Northeastern Province over insecurity fears.
Minister Magoha never did the interview. Public Service, the law says Public Service Commission will conduct the interview. If you conducted that interview in a free, fair, transparent manner, call a press conference and says, as the body mandated by the Constitution, this is our position. Why are you keeping quiet? And you are making now everyone go to court. You know, court, government is going to court, accusing another one.
Is first, abuse of the Constitution, violation of the Constitution, or any other written law. The Universities Act 2012 does not give the Minister for Education power to do some of those things that I've read in the paper. I'm hoping that it was just gossip. I suspect, and I'm not inciting anybody, I suspect that the National Assembly may, through its committee, decide to look at this issue of violation of the law, because I think we owe it to Kenyans to instill constitutionalism in the country.
Right now, schools are closed in Northeastern Province. Am I right, Kajuju? There are 10,000 non-locals living, working in my constituency. But TSC decided to withdraw only teachers.
Thank you for that update here. We hit the break here on the Primetime News. When we come back, we have the business stories lined up for you, including sports and the preparation for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics in the city of Tokyo in Japan. And equally after that is a discussion here on the Orange Table that, of course, regards developments that transpired afterwards the burial of Mzee Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi yesterday at his Kabrak home in Nakuru County. The short SMS code is 40920. The hashtag on Twitter is NewsCompal. Stay tuned. We're coming back after the break. Thank you for choosing to stay with us here on the program, and we do cherish your company on the Primetime News. Into business now, and the national government has announced plans to revive the coffee farming and production in the country, whose fortunes, according to the government, have been dwindling over the years. According to the Agriculture Principal Secretary, Kenya used to export 140,000 metric tons of coffee annually, but currently it's only exporting about 44,000 metric tons, as Musa Amir reports in the following report.
There has been a serious decline in coffee production and export in Kenya, creating anxiety due to lack of value addition and the farmers not being motivated.
When looking at the data on coffee exporters in the world, you'll find most of the coffee is exported from Europe and not from East Africa the way we would expect. Kenya, which was a leader in the past, is standing at number 25, and we get 23 billion annually. We produce 44,000 metric tons, and in the past we used to produce around 140,000 metric tons.
Speaking during the official opening of the two-day 18th Africa Fine Coffee Conference and exhibition at White Sands Hotel, Mombasa, the government is saying they want to invest in research.
More youth to the coffee industry, but by attracting them, we have to make sure that we show to them that it's a profitable business, and by way of through research of having high yield varieties, adapting technology, we can have cooperation, South-to-South cooperation. By that I mean we can visit our friends and colleagues in Brazil and other producing countries where they have succeeded in not increasing the acreage of the coffee, but being high productive.
The government has agreed to finance the Coffee Research Institute that will help come with drug resistance crops, value addition techniques, and ways of attracting youth into coffee farming.
And we have recognized that the collapse of the cooperative movement in the coffee sector began the problems for the coffee sector and for the coffee farmer. So the government has really tried to bring back the cooperative movement. That is why the State Department of Cooperative has now been brought under agriculture. Before it was in industrialization and trade, but now it's under agriculture. And specifically for the coffee sector, we are trying to revive the Kenya Planters Cooperative Union. We have the new Kenya Planters Cooperative Union, because the collapse of the Kenya Planters Cooperative Union also is the one that brought problems for the coffee farmers.
The Principal Secretary, who is also in charge of crop development at the Agriculture Ministry, said 34% of Kenya's gross domestic product is agriculture.
Yeah, I think we have future of coffee in Kenya. Kenya still remains an agro-based economy. 34% of our GDP is agriculture, most of it driven by tea. But there are opportunities in other commodities, especially coffee. And we know in the past we have produced 140,000 metric tons of coffee. And we know we can do that again. All we need to do is give confidence to the farmers that they will get a fair price.
The total budget for the Coffee Research Institute will be agreed in the next financial year. Reporting for Ebro Business, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Not Musa Amir, but Kaindo Stefano. However, Musa is voicing the next story here. And the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, has revealed that out of 692 Matatu SACCOs operating within Nairobi Central Business District, only 272 are licensed.
Kufuatia ufunuo huo, kaunti ya Nairobi imetangaza kwamba imesimamisha utoaji wa leseni mpya. Walakin, rekodi zilizo katika ofisi za kaunti zinasema kwamba kuna SACCO 692 zilisajiliwa.
We apologize for that hiccup in the story. It ought to have been the English version of the story that regards the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA, which said that of the 692 Matatu SACCOs operating in the Central Business District, only 272 are licensed. We will get that report shortly here on the program. But on to the next story. Have you ever thought of going on an amazing cruise getaway with your family or loved ones anywhere across the world? Well, that could soon be the possibility, and you will not even have to leave the country to start that particular journey.
The port of Mombasa today at 0600 hours welcomed a cruise ship christened Miss Marco Polo with 575 passengers and 346 crew members on board. The luxury Miss Marco Polo ship, which its original port of call is United Kingdom, is on a voyage to different ports in Africa. The ship will be in Mombasa port overnight before setting a voyage to Seychelles, which is its next port of call. According to Vice President of Inchcape Shipping, Grant Holmes, Mombasa has an active tourism authority and infrastructure, and Mombasa would be the main destination for cruise safari, which would attract more tourists to the region. With the new cruise terminal, Holmes says that Mombasa has a strategic advantage for cruise tourism.
We believe that Mombasa has a strategic advantage. We have an excellent new terminal which the port authorities have invested in. We have an active tourism authority here which we believe in. There's been a lot of changes to make things more accessible, to get to the airport more quickly from Mombasa, for flights to Masai Mara and other locations for safari. And Mombasa will be the main destination for safari for cruise lines. This attracts many people all over the world, and we believe with a proper strategy and a cohesive strategy, working with the region as a whole, we can make this a reality.
Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director Daniel Manduku said that Kenya and the Port of Mombasa is ready for cruise tourism, and the port is on a plan to have a memorandum of understanding with the cruise ship companies so that in future Mombasa will be part of the cruise circuit.
This is the first call in the port, and we're here to confirm that indeed Kenya and the Port of Mombasa is ready for cruise tourism. We want to thank Mr. Grant Holmes and the captain for coming to Mombasa, for calling on Mombasa Port. And in fact, we want to say that we are now planning to have an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, so that in future, Mombasa is part and parcel of the cruise terminal circuit.
Should Mombasa be added to the cruise circuit, then Kenya stands to earn a great deal from tourism and port taxes, as well as Kenyans having the chance to sail the high seas from their own country. For Ebro News, I'm Musa Amir.
Venue for the trials of Team Kenya's court to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics in Japan strictly remains to be Eldoret's Kipchoge Keino Stadium. And as Benjamin Mwaka now reports in the following report, the National Olympic Committee, NOC, is working closely with Sports Kenya to determine whether the facility, which is expected to undergo several renovations, will be ready for use by June 2020.
As renovation works at the Kipchoge Keino Stadium still remain in waiting, same is the Moi International Sports Complex, Kasarani. The National Olympic Committee might have to relook on whether to host the Olympic trials at the Nyayo National Stadium, which has a set target of March to be fully functional. Renovation works at the facility resumed earlier last month.
Kasarani will be closed as they prepare for the for the World Under 20. So we will have only two options now: Nyayo National Stadium and Kipchoge. So the government has to pull up strings to make sure that this stadium is ready for the events that are ahead of us.
We have no reason to delay this anymore. I think it's become an eyesore for Kenyans who pass here every day to just look up and see this unfinished monster, right? In fact, it's become a monstrosity now.
There's a lot to be done. I can say we would want everything to be perfect. And for that matter, we are actually going to prioritize works around here such that at the end of the day, we will have done what is required of us.
Meanwhile, Team Kenya Maradhonas to the Olympic Games, who were unveiled late last month, will be expected to hit camp before May after completing their individual assignments.
They will prepare for their events which they have chosen to compete in April, bearing in mind that after that they will now prepare for the national assignment, that is the Olympics in Tokyo.
Thank you, and we end the primetime news on that note. Coming up next after the break is News Compass. We will of course discuss whether the BBI, which has started or resumed sittings with stakeholders across the country here in Nairobi today, is the easy, immediate fix to the country's political problems, and equally discuss all about the intense political climate as we enter the crunch political times ahead of 2022, with the crucial or the pivotal point being the Kenyatta-Odinga coming together, or the political bromance. The hashtag on Twitter is News Compass. We will sample some of your feedback later here on the program. Stay tuned. That's coming up next after the break.